Dear Tula, colleagues, excellencies, friends of Victor Papanek. It's a nostalgic moment to be here, because this was the place where I studied in the 60s, and a place where we tried to start a revolution in design with the help of Victor Papanek and Buckminster Fuller. This was the house where they came when they were invited to Finland. I've been asked to look at, say some words of Victor, his thoughts, and see where his thoughts have led. I started my exercise by reading Victor's book. This is what it looked like. This is the first book that he published in 1970 by Bonniers in Sweden. It's titled Miljön och miljonerna, which is the environment and the millions of people. And it has a picture on the cover which explains what his key message. The book is truly impressive. I suggest that you would read the book in any of the 23 languages it's available. It looks today like this. This is the latest German version of the book. So something Victor has added, and some people have helped him to add material. But the book has developed, and it's a book that is very sharp, very aggressive. Even today, it would be the wording he's using is very sharp and aggressive. It's very critical, and it's extremely well written. And I think what made it so influential was that it was very concrete. He was blaming at people doing bad work. He was criticizing the work, but he was also pointing out examples how things could be improved. And I feel that the book is still relevant after the 42 years. To understand Victor's book, you have to look at the 1960s. The spirit of those 10 years, what happened then, and see that the world was in fundamental change. There was a very profound transition which was related to environment. The environmental concern was born in the United States very strongly, and also in Europe. The peace movement was born. Hippies started to walk around, and when I came back from the United States in 1970, I had a long hair, and it was something that men on the marketplace in Helsinki felt uncomfortable with. They didn't treat me that nicely. Buddhism was an important philosophy that was part of it, and drugs, of course, which had an influence on people's behavior, hippie movement, music, and the whole direction of culture changed in the 60s too. I mean, pop culture, which we now think is the bread and butter, was created then. And I think what was important in the 60s was that I was 25 then, felt that we can change the world. I think we really thought that would be possible. And then man ended up on the moon on the 2nd of June in 1966, and we felt that, God, we can do anything that we can imagine. There was a very strong science and techno-utopia in the air. I took some concrete examples of what 60s looked like. an important document was the whole Earth catalog. This is the last one. It was published in the United States. It costed $1 a piece. It was showing products that could be better, could help us to survive and live better. It published articles by the big thinkers of 60s, Buckminster Fuller. It was an important document. And when you look at Victor's book, there are some similarities. This was about, Whole Earth Catalog was presenting the idea that you can change the world through products. And Victor was very much doing the same. But it was amazing collection of all kind of products, technologies that would be useful. Fuller started something in 1963. He launched the World Resources Inventory Center in Southern Illinois University, close to Purdue, where I was working in 69, 70. His thoughts, now Fuller is considered to be one of the greatest thinkers of and visionaries of 1960s. That time, the students felt that his work was meaningless and boring. But he was intended to publish 10 reports in this program. This is number 1, a comprehensive design strategy. Very, very impressive work in his lab in Carbondale. And of course, hippie movement then led to establishment of communes especially in Colorado and New Mexico. Fuller's ideas had an impact here. His own house is on the bottom pictures. His visions of how houses could be constructed and moved around is there, and the Adobe technologies that were applied in communes. This was an important part of the transition of the Terra. And I think this was probably the single most important event of the 60s, end of 60s. In the spring of 1970, 500,000, 500,000 people gathered to Washington, D.C. to protest against the war in Vietnam. And we were walking around White House very peacefully, carrying white coffins on our shoulders and demonstrating against the peace. And this really, I said that we thought that we could change the world. And this demonstration changed the course of the war and led to the peace agreement finally. Great experience. Now its demonstrations are normal behavior. But this was something, and the peace movement that, our foreign minister still carries the sign of the peace people on his jacket wherever he goes. That was born here. There were other events. The Club of Rome published its very famous report in the beginning of 70s, and the limits of growth, which had opened our eyes to the environmental scenario. And of course, Paris, close to us, put whole France on standstill. The total stop of the society, based as a result of student demonstrations. But if you look at then Finland, what did Finland look at that time? Finland was very proud that our designers, and you know the names Virkala, Sarpaneva, Frank, Nurmesniemi, and others, had been awarded in international competitions or exhibitions for making beautiful objects. They were awarded because of the beauty of the objects, not because of their social impact or that they would have solved any particular problems. And as a result of the new thoughts that Victor and Baki brought here, there was a very strong feeling that this was not right, that we would admire beauty in the world which was so full of problems. And it's interesting to note that beauty disappeared of the vocabulary of Finnish design and design education for more than 10 years. You could not talk about beauty at all. It was not there. It was an immoral world. Now we see it differently. There was a strong feeling of need and possibility for change in the 60s. And the students in Finland, it was not the professors who would take the lead, but it was the students, the student union of the present, at that time, Institute of Industrial Art. And I happened to be the chairman of the student union at that time. We brought the Nordic students together to organize events. The Fuller, Papanek, and many others were invited to speak. And the first one was in 1967, and it led to an amazing party close to where Tuula is now, on Otaniemi sports field. And the loudest pop band, Mosaic, was playing music. We were dancing on a floating pavilion. And there were 2 movie projectors placed there which showed the moon walk on the floor. And so we were dancing in that environment. What it also led to, besides the great party, was the establishment of Scandinavian Design Student Organization, which the following year published a magazine that Uuden ajan aura, the magazine of the Green Movement, wrote later in the 70s that this was the most important magazine in Finland in the 60s. And I think it's probably true when you look what it is. But it's, the cover captures very well the spirit of that time. This is drawn by Timo Arniala, one of the very famous graphic designers of Finland. And if you look at the back, it has the message, save the earth. That was the idea. You have to do something to save the earth. This is a quote of the leader in the magazine, and it reflects well how critical the students were about the development and how desperate and how desperately they wanted to make a change. But the magazine also reflects what we think now is everyday stuff. I mean, Kivi, who is here, is directing the ad lab in Aalto, the digital design lab, automation, new materials. This is 42 years ago. And now it seems to be every day. There was techno-utopia. I mean, you could do anything with technology. You could go to Moon and Mars and Saturn and build living there. This is an article by John McHale. And also felt that the future lies in the children, that you should consider them. And of course, change of the culture, interviews of Mike Jagger and others. But it had two main articles. One was by Bucky Fuller, and if you have met him, he can talk for 1 hour. He can talk 16 hours or 20 hours at one time. He was an amazing speaker, and he wrote a 16-page article for us about design strategy. And you can see some of the questions he wanted us to answer to. And some of his work, that's his car, which he designed and which was later abandoned because it was unstable to drive with. It tilted and there was an accident, and that was too much. The car was never produced, but he wanted to produce a car that would be ecologically sound vehicle. And he had big thoughts. If you would cover Manhattan with the dome, you could save a lot of energy. And you've seen Bucky's constructions, and you could physically do this. He had really big thoughts. And the other one was an article by Victor. The title tells about his way of looking. He was very using vocabulary that was quite aggressive, and murder is not a simple word. But here you can see, I mean, if Bucky Fuller was looking at the big things, Victor was looking at small things, products that could solve problems and help us to live better. But this article led to publishing of Victor's book in 1970 by Bonniers, and later it has been translated to 23 languages, and it's probably the most widely read book about design ever published. Many of the colleagues who read his key messages were not, of course, very happy. The students didn't feel uncomfortable with the criticism, but the design profession didn't clap their hands when they read Victor's book. But he was very much, he wanted us to become the advocates of the users. And I think this is something similar to what 365 well-being is doing, and the user-driven innovation thinking is somehow refers to the Victor's idea. But this was, he thought that we should consider as our work to work with the problems of the real people, whatever they are, be advocates of the users. He was like Kai Frank in Finland, very critical about disposable culture, the throwaway culture. And I think what he says here in a quote was probably, is very true, that it was not only a question about throwing away material stuff, but it also was a question of throwing away human values, that human values were disposable as the material goods. Victor was, besides being critical and trying to identify the role of designers, he also had very concrete proposals of what designers should do. And this is one of the ideas that designers there should be a new kind of office that would focus on educational needs and tools. And if you look at the list of the people here, schools, retarded, disadvantaged, handicapped, prisoners, mentally ill, he was listing all the minorities that he could identify where he felt that there was a great need to find solutions for this type of people, and we were focusing on the wealthy and areas where no problems were actually there. But this kind of vocabulary, slums, ghetto, was part of Victor's rhetoric. I think this was probably the message that made us rethink what we were doing. The simple question of, when you're doing something, does it contribute to the social good of people or not? This very simple question of should you spend your time and talent on something that has no impact, or should you use your skills that universities try to develop for something better? And I think this, putting it very simple, this was the key message of people, that it's a question of how our work relates to people. And then he talks about all people as individuals and human beings. And Victor and Fuller came another time to Finland too, in the following year, in '68. Victor sits here with Leena Maunula, making an interview for Helsingin Sanomat, and in the front of a playground that we built for retarded children. It was part of the thinking that you should do something concrete, involve people in trying to demonstrate how problems can be solved. And on top there is a group of architects trying to design a slaughterhouse for reindeers in Lapland. And the person behind or under the camera is Pirjo Honkasalo, making a documentary, and Henrik Walfors, who are both of the key persons in Finnish documentary film making. And the designers here are Jorma Vennola, Muumi Pitkonen, Antti Siltavuori, and Immi Tiivola, some of the people who later established the most important and successful Finnish design consultancies. So it's a good group of people. And Bucky Fuller in Suomelinna. What happened in Suomelinna was also closely related to the book of Jean-Jacques Servan-Schreiber, who wrote a very critical book about the future of Europe and how Europe was lagging behind development compared to USA. The word innovation was introduced in the book and in the Suomelinna seminar for the first time in Finland. But you can say that, if you look what Tuula said about Aalto University, that the seeds of Aalto University were presented in 1968 in Suomelinna seminar. Not only because of the people who were involved, there were designers, architects, engineers behind the event, but what we tried to do was to build a concept that Aalto University is about. So it took a few years to make it, but the idea was there, and Sitra has been involved later in many ways in development of not only universities but also Finnish design. And Marko Steinberg, who is here, is now continuing the Suomellina tradition building, looking what should come. I think Victor was not treated that well after he published his books. The Design magazine wrote a very nasty article about him, and his colleagues felt that the work of Victor was meaningless. Victor later wrote another book in 1990, The Green Imperative, where he tried to update his thinking, a very equally influential book as the Design for the Real World. But when you look now what happened in the beginning of the third millennium, right now, the thoughts and ideas of Victor are living strong life. And there's a quite large number of major projects, awards, organizations that have been born in the beginning of the third millennium. Index Prize, Papanek Social Design Award, DESIS, where Lo Yonji was with Ezio Mancini in 2008 in Italy when that was born, and DESIS has become one of the most powerful and active organizations promoting social innovation. Design for All and Untitled Chapter organization, which is working in Latin America. The Kyoto Design Declaration by Cumulus, and this movement created by young people. But these are all examples and witness that the ideas that Victor presented in the 60s live on and have an impact. As though Ryan from the Chicago Art Institute says, I think she's right, saying that the ideas are maybe even more relevant today. And I feel that if you look at what is going on, these are global organizations and global activities which are carrying on the ideas of both Papanek and Fuller in a very large scale. And if you are asking how to have an impact, I think this is a good example, and Un Teko Parami Pais, organizations which really have an impact on the practical level. So things are moving on, and the thoughts of Victor really have an impact, and I think they have had impact on my life and thinking in many ways. I also went to Africa, as he said we should do. I went in 1972 with my son, who was then much shorter than he is now. He was 1.5 years old. And I was going there because of a South African professor who was thinking very much like Victor was doing. I spent a year in Africa. The person had been killed in a car accident, so I never met him. But I went there, and that had a very big impact on my thinking and how I see the world. So I think there were a lot of people who really did what Victor said we should do, not only the work, but also how we should learn about the world. I hope you do the same. Thank you.